This is a spring daffodils acrylic painting tutorial. I'm Karen Rice. I've been teaching acrylics for quite a number of years and I would like to share my experience and knowledge to you here on YouTube. And for those of you at the beginners, I'm hoping this can really inspire you to paint a landscape with some daffodils. So this is my first stage, and all I want to do is cover this white canvas with some mid to dark greens, just to take the fear out of the acrylic painting and to get you going. So I'm using a canvas board here. It has been primed. It's quite a cheapy one that I bought from my local sort of art store. I'm actually using the tubes straight away and squeezing them on to the sort of distant trees area here. I'm using a flat 1-inch synthetic brush. I don't spend a lot of money on brushes for acrylic painting because I tend to spoil them. So I actually find the cheap brand quite good. As long as they don't shed hairs, you're good to go. The green that I'm using is quite a sort of a darkish green, but I've sort of watered it down a little bit. I'm using a little triple water pot here that I bought from Jackson's Art Supplies. It's really useful because it ensures that you have clean water when you need it, and you can actually wash your brushes as well. But every time it gets a bit muddy, always change your water. So I've actually sort of squeezed out a light green and a dark green here. So it's a good combination. It's quite a nice little technique, this. And to be quite honest, this first stage is just to get something down the canvas, just to give it a sort of a background wash in a way, so you can sort of, it takes the fear out of acrylic painting. And I'm sort of painting all the sort of greener grasses. So it's quite a nice idea using this dark and light green because it does the work for you. So you've got that, you blend them together to get another green, but also you've got elements of that light green and that dark green. I'm using my flat brush and I pretty much used just the paint itself, not a lot of water. So the top area I felt wasn't dark enough. So I've actually squeezed out some black, believe it or not, and some very light green. If you don't have the light green, just use yellow. And I'm just sort of blending them together there. So there's not a lot of water now, it's just the paint. And I'm sort of cutting into the grasses, so I've got some nice natural edges there. But this is kind of a warm-up stage. It's just to get something on that white canvas so it doesn't look so scary. Now's a good time to allow your acrylic painting to dry naturally if you can, but sometimes I use a hairdryer if I run out of time. So my painting's all nice and dry, and I'm actually just squeezed out a little bit of the light green again with the black, just to kind of, because sometimes when you put that first layer on, you think it looks okay, and then when it dries, you've got all these bits of light white canvas coming through, so you do need to build up your layers. So that's what I'm doing here. It gives a nice solid look, and I'm using a 1/2-inch flat brush. And I've actually used some of the lighter green now just to show some highlights on the foliage. If you look in the distance there, there's some soft light on the foliage. So I'm just including that. I don't want to put too much information in my background. After all, it's the background. If you put too much detail, it's going to come forward and it'll sort of make your painting look flat. What we're trying to do is create the illusion of depth on a 2D surface. So we're using all these artistic tools. So I'm using some more of the lighter green now, just painting in some light leaves and stems and smaller ones in the distance on the tree line there. Just sort of using my little flat brush. I love using flat brushes in acrylics. I really find them useful. But I'm just putting some of this lovely light, lush, leafy green onto the grass area. Now I'm going to allow my painting to dry again. And I'm going to squeeze out some yellows here. I've got a box of Amsterdam acrylics that I bought, which has got lots and lots of different colours. So I'm just using a variety of different yellows here. My painting is dry in this area, and I'm using the sort of side of this little flat brush just to create the look of those very light daffodils in the distance. They're quite abstract, these shapes. Don't worry about them, just vary them. Keep them on the horizon line, the tree line, and just dot them. And if you, sometimes you might have to do this twice, depending on how opaque and rich your yellow is. So you might need to let it dry and then go over the top of those shapes, because sometimes the background comes through the yellow. What my advice there would be is, if you can, just buy yourself one artist tube of yellow Golden Acrylics are really good, Liquitex, Winsor & Newton, Daler Rowney. They're all the brands have got really good artist quality. I always say to my students, if you don't want to buy artist paints, that's fine. Just get yourself an artist yellow. I also think sometimes getting an artist white is also useful because again, it's a very light colour. What I'm doing now is I'm using some white with a tiny touch of blue. Any blue will do. It's just to give a hint of blue in this light colour. What I really love about this photograph is that you've got these sort of little bits of light sky coming through those distant trees there. And I'm just painting this, again using the tip of the side of this flat little brush to create sort of abstract sort of little shapes there. If it's helpful as well, you could turn this upside down. But I'm literally just putting little light blue marks, very light blue, wet on dry, you know, sort of keeping it to a minimum, just a little bit pinches of light here and there. Have a play with it. The worst thing that can happen is you don't like it, just get a wet sort of paper towel and just wipe it off, or just wash it with your brush and then wipe it off. I'm also putting this white now, it's not light blue, it's white, with the tip of my same brush, rinsed out of course, and putting some white daffodils now onto the surface. Now I am using a 12 by 10 inch board, and the photograph is quite a little bit longer, a bit more sort of landscape, but I'm using a bit of artistic license and I'm interpreting this photograph. I paint in a very impressionistic style and I just love it. I love the Impressionists, always have since I was a child. And I love the way they sort of minimize things and just created light atmosphere, textures, colors. You know, just the way, you know, in the way they blocked and painted their marks in. What I'm doing here is I'm just again still using this flat brush, painting some larger daffodils. Now I don't normally sort of use white paint so early on in a painting. I always get my students say, leave your whites till last. But here there are very light daffodils. They are the star of the show. So I'm just cracking on and just painting those on there. And just, you know, sometimes you can get tightened up and think, I've got to paint this exact shape of this daffodil. No, you don't. You're the artist. It's your interpretation. You don't have to slavishly copy. That's what photographs are for. They're wonderful. You know, we've got a photograph to show something in nature, the way it kind of looks to our mind's eye. Painting is very different. And even if you're starting out as a beginner, it's quite nice just to kind of loosen up and just don't feel you have to slavishly copy. So what I'm showing you here, just using this flat brush and white paint, is just generalizing the shapes of these daffodils. I haven't drawn them. I'm just looking at the basic shapes, because they're sort of turning and twisting in different directions. The wind might be sort of catching them. So they're not perfect. You know, you can't see all of the petals. So just paint what you can see or interpret it as best you can and just enjoy the painting process. I always try and, you know, just sort of really pass that on to people, because the whole joy of painting isn't just to get something to look perfect. It's actually just painting and mixing colours and painting them on and creating something completely, you know, new that no one's ever seen before. Okay, enough of that. I get carried away. I've actually mixed some white in with my yellow here, so I'm painting some yellow daffodils as well, sort of trying to match that colour on there. I don't think I've quite got it actually, but not to worry. The beauty of acrylics is you can paint over the top, but I'm just trying to get the general shape there. I'm painting a couple of the smaller daffodils in as well. The ones that are on the side, sort of profile ones, are a lot easier to paint. It's the ones that are sort of coming towards you are a little bit trickier. But as I say, just try and just paint what you see and don't worry about making them look perfect. So it's a good idea now to dry your painting again, and I'm going to start painting in the centres, and this should really bring out the daffodils a lot more. So I'm mixing up now. I always rinse my brush, by the way, in between painting, so I don't keep that on camera, but just to say I do. And a lot of the times I wipe the damp brush on a kitchen towel, because sometimes there's some sneaky droplets of water that sort of come out of the brush that can be very frustrating. So I'm mixing up sort of an orangey colour, red and yellow, and just painting sort of little circles really inside those larger daffodils. They are the stars of my show, of my painting, and I'm actually using my fingertips as well creating a lighter sort of yellowy sort of centres on those paler, whiter daffodils there. So I'm mixing up a little bit of light green as well, painting it in between the daffodils, creating a little bit of light. Remember, as I said earlier, with acrylics we work dark to light. So I've really decided to paint lots of lighter grasses in there. I've swapped to a smaller brush just to get some thinner lines, and just painting this wet on dry with some really light sort of yellow greens. I've added a little bit more of a darker green here. So if you don't have darker green in quotes, just mix up some blue with a touch of yellow. I'm using a little bit, again, a small little brush here, and just painting a few more little yellow a cluster in the distance. I felt I didn't have enough there on the horizon, so I'm varying it between white and yellow, and then white on its own, and just keep building up the detail using these lovely light colours. So I've allowed my painting to dry again. I just want to build up more detail now, just to really sort of I'm on the home straight of finishing my painting. I find painting stems and things a bit tricky, so I'd advise you to get a piece of card, and because it bends, so you get a nice curvature in the card. And I'm actually printing with the card, so I've just put my colour that I want, painting it on the card, whatever colour you like, and then printing. And you might need to do this sort of several times because it's only got so much paint on it, so you might have to just keep repainting the card, reprinting. But I really like it, and you can actually paint less of the card and have smaller stems and more of the card. So have a nice long piece of card and you can vary it. But it's extremely difficult to get that sort of definition with a brush. So I really think this is a great little technique, so I hope you enjoy it. So what I'm doing now is I'm painting the centre of the daffodils, and I'm using yellow ochre with a tiny touch of green, and I'm painting this wet on dry and using some orangey and sort of stronger colours around the edges as well, just to build up details here. And I'm using a liner brush, which is not quite like a rigger, but it's a longer haired brush, and it's quite nice for painting in fine sort of little details here. Now the colours in the centre of the daffodils vary, so some of them will be warmer, more red orange, and others will just be paler oranges and yellows. So just sort of look out for that, and just add more yellow for the lighter colours and just more red for the deeper, darker colours. You don't have to copy the photograph. So if you like those warmer, darker centres and the more red colours, then paint them. It's your picture. I've dried my painting again, and I'm spattering the sort of horizon line here, the tree line, to make it look like there's lots and lots of daffodils in the distance, and it's so effective. To spatter, you just need to water down your acrylics a little. I'm also using this liner brush to paint some thinner stems and some more details in the centre using ochre and green. So I think I'll leave the painting there for now. I don't want to overdo it, but I hope it's sort of inspired you to have a go at painting something like this with landscape and flowers. If you'd like to see more tutorials like this, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, where you will get updates of my latest tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my acrylic channel. Happy painting. Bye for now.